Thanks for staying on the program with us this morning as we look to review headline stories and capture issues in the news in our dialogue. Joining us as our guest analyst for today is a public affairs analyst and social commentator, Mr. Moses Idika. Hello, Mr. Moses. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, my pleasure.
Now, let's get straight into the conversation. And it's off the back of this calls of marginalization that started with comments made by Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. In the last few days, the federal government has been looking to manage the rhetoric. There's been an ongoing government-to-citizen two-day engagement at the Arewa House in Kaduna, where the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Alhaji Atiku Bagudu, rededicated the commitment of the government to prioritizing northern Nigeria in infrastructure development. Particularly, he singled out the Kaduna-Kano standard gauge rail line. With a date for its commissioning, he said, come 2026, northern Nigeria can expect to begin to benefit the usage of the Kaduna-Kano rail. What do you make of this promise by the federal government?
It's all good. The thing is that is what we'll keep saying, that it doesn't matter who speaks out. Sometimes, and most times really, we have to speak to the government to demand accountability from the government. What exactly is going on? How are our resources being used? What are the plans, the timelines? It's good that the minister is, or the government is engaging with a section of Nigeria. All we want is that let the government also continue to engage with other sections of Nigeria, that this is what we are doing and these are the timelines. It's not enough. Recently, we heard they were going to borrow around $30 billion and a rail line, the Eastern Corridor from Port Harcourt through to, I think, Adamawa also is part of it. Then, of course, there are bad roads in all parts of Nigeria. Let the government tell us what is going to happen or what they are doing. It's not just about Kano or Kaduna-Kano rail line. It just covers just 2 states. There are 36 states of the country.
I know we'll be seeing some images of the construction ongoing, reaching our screens shortly. But it's been a bane of a conversation over time. I hear you talking about the state of our roads.
Yes.
On the alternative, people have made a case for the fact that haulage, heavy transportation, PMS and all, if we had standard lines with cargo rails attached, we might begin to unbundle the transport congestion on our roads.
Yes, if you travel for more than 2 hours on any of our major highways from any part of the country, you realize we don't have good roads. The roads are mere craters. Of course, we know that since the rail services collapsed, everything is hauled through the roads. Petroleum products, heavy equipment, things that do not have any reason being hauled by roads. They are all, going through our road. And of course, because of our sickening maintenance culture too, the roads are not properly maintained. So you find out that everything is collapsing. So it's good that the government is talking about revitalizing our rail system. It is the way to go all over the world. The things that are hauled by rail are best hauled by rail. For example, you see anytime you travel, trailers falling left, right and center, there's a lot of losses to Nigerian business people. You know that insurance business is not really that strong in Nigeria, so a lot of goods are not insured. When you see a trailer load of tomato, fall by the roadside, that is millions of naira of people's money, investment. And you know that how these things go, not a single person buys a trailer load of tomato or pepper, for example. They are perishable goods. You have like 100, 200 market women pulling funds together to load these things into a particular, and it falls on the road and the loss is massive. So now we don't have any alternative to reviving our rail transport system. So it's good that the government is talking. But of course, politically, you find out that it's also the fact that the government has failed to speak to Nigerians. The policies of government is impoverishing Nigeria. So nobody feels that this government actually means well for the people. The government keeps telling you the figures are improving, our economy is now stable, but to the average person on the street, he's poorer than he was 2 years ago. So, and it's good the government is engaging with the people, but it shows on the one hand the pressure the government is going through, and secondly, the disconnect between the people and the government.
Now, as much as this is one of the priority projects of the government looking to assuage the yearnings of northern Nigeria, did it need to take Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso's rhetorics of marginalization for the government to begin more important information disseminations on the pace of work on this project?
Well, that is the sign of the days we live in. You find out that the government has already abandoned governance. They are now politicking. That is why every gathering of the government or government officials, the only thing they talk about is endorsement of the president, people defecting to their party. Nobody is talking about what is this government doing that is even driving the defections, or that Nigerians need to re-elect President Tinubu in 2027. So the government already abandoned governance and they are politicking, and that is why the things that Kwankwaso or any other person says gains traction amongst the populace, because the government itself is not saying anything about improving the welfare of the people. They are all talking about 2027 elections.
Now, the Minister of Transport was also captured looking to buttress the government's dedication to northern Nigeria. He said over 135 roads so far have been completed in northern Nigeria. Statistically speaking, I was looking at the part of the roads that had been named. He talked about more projects coming on the way. Sokoto Badagry Superhighway, also naming the progress with the Akwanga Jos Bauchi Gombe Road. So far, so good. It's also not been just about the roads, it's on maintenance. And previously, I know the National Assembly has also queried the progress of, or would I say, the efficiency of FEMA in rehabilitation of this road. What do you make about this?
I think most Nigerians don't even know what FEMA is doing. It's only when you travel that you see some signboard on the road talking about FEMA. And in terms of maintenance, maintenance shouldn't be basically about potholes, sealing potholes. Most times FEMA doesn't do a very good job. Anytime you pass a place where FEMA repaired, you find out that there is undulating in one way, or the sign of maintenance, basically some leftover asphalt by the road. The road is still a kind of not smooth enough. So the maintenance culture is not there. In that, what FEMA does is patchwork. It's not maintenance per se. The road shoulders are always overgrown by bushes, and these are things that encroach. When the road shoulders are overgrown by bushes, of course water percolates, and then this has a way of impacting the integrity of our road. So maintenance is supposed to be a culture in terms of keeping our roads clean. It's like you wake up in the morning, you clean up your room. That is maintenance. If you allow your living room to get dirty over time, you find out that things start getting rusty, smelly, and so it's not just about sealing potholes. It's making it a culture that, okay, you have constructed this road within so number of time. After 6 months, after 1 year, you can actually drive through the road and find out seal cracks before they become potholes. That is maintenance. But what FEMA does is basically where some of these craters, they're within some few meters, they pour concrete and put asphalt on the road. In another 2 months, the same spot is bad again. So it's unfortunate, and I think FEMA should live up to its statutory role by becoming a maintenance agency and not pothole filling agency that it currently is right now.
Quite interesting takes there. Now, whilst the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu, is looking to also assuage the North, reassuring them of the federal government's commitment to inclusive governance, it's about the political debates on 2027 and the re-election bid by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Well, so far so good. We're told that a 2-day government citizen engagement in Kaduna is ongoing at the Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation area house, where this dialogue has been on. It's more on the permutations of what some northern leaders are saying is their position going into 2027. Particularly the Arewa Consultative Forum is vowing to eject the president from the villa come 2027 over what they believe has not been an all-inclusive government thus far. Do you see any substance behind these claims, or it's just political rhetorics?
There is definitely a very strong substance in the statement, in that this government came on board and is actually riding roughshod on every section of Nigeria. You cannot say that this government is pro this person or pro this section. The government is standing alone and is seeing Nigeria and Nigerians as the other side. This government is not talking about Nigeria. It's not just northern Nigeria. And when you look at the posture of officials of this government, if you as much dissent, you become an enemy of the government. They tag you all manner of names. And so this is not how a government is run. Nigeria is our collective responsibility. Nigeria is our collective, patrimony. And if you have to be the president of Nigeria, you have to carry every section of Nigeria along.
Mr. Moses, this carrying along always has a political connotation to it. Because if I understand the position of the government, they look at it from a party position. They say, you know what? The deputy senate president is a core northerner. This position has also gone to the north. That appointment has gone to the north. Whilst the citizens look at it from the angle of resource allocation, it's more or less a divided debate when you talk about carrying everyone along. So how do you balance this notion of carrying everyone along?
Carrying everyone along is this. For example, of course, there is that angle of political patronage. I'm talking about political party patronage. Some persons are more with us, some persons... But when you emerge the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you are now the president of everybody, irrespective of who voted for you or who didn't vote for you. Now, there are minimum standards. If you are talking about resource allocation, and how do you do this resource allocation? Like in Nigeria, what they just talk about is capital expenditure of the government. That is, you are citing, Nigeria is definitely a developing nation. It means we have roads to build, we have hospitals to build, new infrastructure to come on stream, and of course maintenance of the existing one. That is how government is run. So if you have a 6 geopolitical zone, for example, and you have a 20,000 naira to spread across this 6 geopolitical zone, I mean, by the time you do your checks, you find out that okay, everybody can actually conveniently get 3 naira out of this, or 3,000 out of this 20,000. Let everybody get 3,000 flat. Then, based on your political permutations and sentiment, some may get 4 naira, some may get 5 naira, some may even get 6 naira. But if there is a base that the minimum is that everybody should at least get 3 naira or 3,000, fine, let that be. But in this government, you find out that some places will get 17,000, while some people will get 200. So that is how this thing is done. Now, if you come to patronage in terms of individual appointment and all that, if you look critically into the current government, the financial services sector, the public finance services sector, is dominated by a single section of the country from the CBN to NDIC to any institution that has to do with the financial health of this country is dominated by a section of the country. And when you look at all the, you find out, well, people are free to, you know, to look at it like, okay, we are not even part of this government. So, and these are the things that divide the country the more. So, I think that the government should really look back, look inward, and begin to make amends, because the precedent the government is laying is going to continuously haunt the country, because we know that it doesn't matter if the president returns in 2027. By 2031, God's giving everybody life, then he will go. Another session will come. What if another session comes and starts to play by the same rule book that this current government is playing with? Then the agitation will start from there too. So I think the government should really look at Nigeria as a country and not as like a feud where you go and get yours. Whatever happens to the other people, so be it.
I know one of the narratives and credits would always go to the president for giving importance to the 6 geopolitical development commissions that he signed into law. But there's also this notion that there's still a regional imbalance. How much of a regional imbalance is ongoing despite these development commissions are signed into law?
Well, it's so obvious. The regional imbalance is so. Look at, we have southern and northern Nigeria. If you look at this current government, is definitely a southwest government. There is no the southeast is not really in the government. The south is marginally in the government. And if you come to the north,
by what yardsticks?
By, if you talk about appointments, if you talk about project allocation, if you talk about political patronage, it's very glaring, and that is what has caused the agitations, in northern Nigeria, in southeast, and in some other sections of the country.
Now let's leave this and go to another issue. It's always with the rhetoric that government is a continuum. The Guardian newspaper, amongst all political stories, chose to headline the suspended school feeding initiative. It was looking at it from the impacts of food inflation that has hiked up the prices of staple foods. It also looked at it from the angle of the number of pupils affected, over 9 million across 30 states. It looked at the jobs affected as well on the part of food vendors and farmers who were all contributing to the pool of the meals that were served to these peoples at school. We can always forget the controversies of the COVID and the report that students were being fed despite the pandemic. All of that has made for this school feeding initiative to be queried in some sorts. But above all, at a time when the economy is this pressing, do we need to see a reintroduction of the school feeding program?
Well, it's not going to be a bad idea. The problem we have in Nigeria is that we don't improve on government programs. Instead of improving on them, we abandon them. The school feeding program is just a normal subsidy kind of for the poorer population. Because what are we talking about? This school feeding program is not happening in Grange School or any of these highbrow private schools. It's not even happening in federal government colleges, the unity schools. It's happening in basic primary schools, public primary schools, that the only people that attend those schools are people from very poor homes. Because the tragedy of the Nigerian educational system is that the proliferation of the loss of confidence in public schools has brought about proliferation of very substandard schools, so-called private school. Every corner you see something international school, something academy, and you go there, they don't even have qualified teachers. School cert holders who can't find a job, they go there, and if you look at the instructional materials, you find out that it's substandard, poorly written, and so which has really diminish our standing in terms of basic education. Now, a government initiated that. It was poorly managed because those ones, like you mentioned earlier, they claimed that students were being fed at home even when everybody knew it wasn't true. But for a government who says they are talking about the welfare of the poor, you can't take away that kind of program. What you should have done is to improve it, make it more functional. If there is going to be a meal for pupils in public primary schools, let the meal be improved, let it be made more nutritious, let it be made more hygienic. You have more control of the standard, and now make it more accountable, that you can actually see that these pupils are being fed. That way, you find out that you have more children in school. A lot of children can't concentrate because they are hungry. So it's unfortunate that the government is abandoned that program. It happened before. During Jonathan's time, there was this program that helped small SMEs, people, creative Nigeria who can. The Buhari government came, crashed the program, and then with its gain, nothing. So they replaced it with this school feeding and conditional cash transfer and all that, which was also poorly managed. But if you look at the conceptual frameworks of all these programs, you find out that there is actually merit in them. What a serious government should have done is to actually make them work for Nigerians, for that lower class of Nigerians that are supposed to be beneficiaries of this, because you find out that elite programs continue.
That's quite true. Now, for indigent Nigerians, another angle to this conversation has been the lack of an accurate social register. For me, I always looked at it beyond even the social register to the fact that we're yet to conduct a census. How do we actively plan without the right data and statistics? How do we know for sure that these are the indigent Nigerians that are to benefit from such government initiatives?
The issue is, it goes back to planning. We're a country that we do not plan. Every country that is serious about its development plans, because no government anywhere in the world can make all these changes in 8 years, which is the maximum allowed by the Constitution. But because there is no planning, every government comes, does things that it feels, its own legacy, they call it legacy projects, things that will be remembered for. And then it doesn't matter if such things ever get completed. They abandon what was going on and then bring up their own program. Because for example, if Buhari's government started a hospital project, for example, then you come, if Tinubu government completes it, they will see that it was actually Buhari's. So the government doesn't want to have anything to do with Buhari's government or the past government. They want to showcase themselves. So, and that is why you have abandoned projects scattered in all these 774 local governments in Nigeria. Every state capital has an abandoned project. You see in the state, at the state level, a government starts a hospital or a healthcare program, another government comes, stops it in its entirety, irrespective of the public resources that was already invested. They just abandon it and starts a fresh one that they don't even have a plan of completing. In the first 2 years of office, they will run around. By the second year, as we are seeing, everybody's talking about the second term, and the programs are abandoned. So it is something that Nigerians as a country must start to see, that if you start to build this table with public resources, that table, you shouldn't start another one until this one is completed. So that way we can save, that way we can have a developmental trajectory. So not these fits and starts that we have that has continuously kept us under.
Do you think there's ever a possibility where government would be indeed a continuum, regardless of which party is in power?
It's possible if we can make it a justiciable thing that a government can't abandon, because this Buhari was the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Tinubu is now the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And they're both APC.
And it should never matter the government. You know, the problem we have is that procurement processes is good on paper, but in practice it's not there. If it was as good in practice as it is on paper, perhaps all these issues won't come up, because when you go back, we're here. There are usually timelines and trajectories of every project. All over the world, you see that a government, they will say they are building a road to link this country and this country. Is expected to be completed in we're in 2025 now. It should be it's expected to be completion date will be 2031. It means that those governments that started it, they are not saying they are the one who is, because they know that perhaps they have 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. But being that it's a national asset, whoever comes continues from where the other person stopped. But for that to happen, there has to be accountability that for this number of years we have allocated so resources, and that so resources should take it to, maybe we are talking about rail project now. If you have allocated $1 billion, this $1 billion should take it to maybe 5,600 kilometers, so that by the time that $100 billion is spent and another government comes, you'll find out that you are already on 56 kilometer. Then maybe it's remaining another 56 or even another 100. The current government budgets, and then so that timeline, it continues. In a matter of 5 years, 10 years, then we have it. But since 1999, that Nigeria returned to civilian rule, you find that there has not been any project that has successfully transitioned from one administration to another. Let me give you an example. In 2006, President Olusegun Obasanjo flagged off the dualization and rehabilitation of Abuja, Lokoja, Okene Highway. It's 26 or thereabout years today. That road has never been completed. And over 200 billion has been, what is 200? I think the last time I checked, around close to 600 billion has been spent on that road. And that road is less than 200 kilometers. And over a 26-year period, has never been completed. Each government comes and sees that same road as a cash cow. They put in money, they pull money for their elections, they leave it. As we speak now, some few kilometers of the road is being, you see people carrying shovel. If you travel by that road, between a place they call Kutum Cafe and that long bridge, they laid iron rods that they want to do concrete road. That iron rod has been there for over 4 months. No concrete has been put on it. And I won't be surprised if this government, if this particular term goes by and that's less than 5 kilometers is not completed. So that is the kind of situation we have in this country, that the sustainability of programs of government has been bungled by the same government, and that is why we are not making progress as a nation, because until you have a long-term plan, you can't make progress.
Mr. Moses Idika has placed the progress of government programs and initiatives on the need for continuity and planning, using several examples to buttress the point at which the school feeding program has now been suspended, leaving over 9 million pupils and over 127,000 food vendors stranded. Now, whilst these are issues that have to do with better governance, many talk about the need for improved welfare following budget and planning. Now, whilst for recurrent expenditure, payments of staff welfare And the implementation of new wages as agreed by the government has been a subject of debates. The most recent being a nationwide warning strike, a week-long one by nurses, which has taken effect and entered day 3. All negotiations between the government and the Nurses Association body has been stalemate. Now, the situation has led for patients to be turned back at hospital gates, and it's been an alarming one. I saw one of the quite interesting reactions to this. It was an opinion, a notion captured online that take for instance the cash money rewards given to the Super Falcons would have catered for over 16,000 doctors and over 66,000 teachers, to include other ranks of junior cadre of policemen. Many talk about the priority of sectors that should not be compromised upon. Not saying that the Falcons are not deserving of that cash reward, but at a time when nurses are on strike, how do we get priorities right in terms of attending to remuneration of workers and this call for better wages?
The issue of Falcons is just a chance happening, because if the Falcons didn't win, there may not have been that kind of reward. The nurses would have still gone on strike. The school teachers would have still not been paid. The policemen would still have their issues. Generally, you find out that at the beginning of this government, there was this massive engagement with the organized labor, and the government came on with 70,000 minimum wage. As we speak, several states in this country have not fully implemented that 70,000 minimum wage. This is the 3rd year into this government. So the issue of rewarding the Falcons is just for the purposes of conversation. The real issue is that the government has abandoned governance. If you go to any hospital in this country today, and when I mean hospital, I'm talking about the general hospitals, the specialist hospitals, the teaching hospitals, because we do not have primary health care centers. There is hardly any functional primary health care. The sign of primary health care center in Nigeria is a blue curtain dropping down in one ramshackle house somewhere in the villages or even in the town. You go there, there is nobody there. You only see somebody taking records in some places. In some other places, if there is they can't attend to emergency. You understand? So the health sector has totally collapsed. In our hospitals, there is no electricity. It is only in Nigeria that women still die during childbirth. Childbirth should not, for any reason, result into a woman's death. But in Nigeria, it happens.
Despite the free cesarean section initiative as rolled out by the Ministry of Health.
Which free cesarean? How many of the hospitals are conducting free cesarean sections? And you know that there is this antenatal services that should be provided. And if indeed antenatal services are provided, no woman should ever die giving birth. Because by that antenatal program, the due date is already known and precautions are taken that, okay, if your due date is August 5th, by August 3rd, you should be very close, if not in the hospital. That way, any complication can be taken care of. But such services don't exist in our hospital. In our hospital today, there is no oxygen. If you have an emergency, you see the way people run around. There's no oxygen here, there's no oxygen. I mean, people die. In our hospitals today, if you go to Federal Medical Center, Jabi, there is no blood bank. So when you talk about healthcare delivery in Nigeria, it's non-existent. People, it's just best you don't.
And this is for basic infrastructure and equipment, talk more or less of welfare of the
nurses and doctors and radiographers and health workers generally. Health workers are living on loan. If you go to any hospital, if a health worker has a Tokumbo car, it's on loan. If a health worker has a a refrigerator in their house is on loan, because the government. Imagine a situation where you work sometimes 24 hours, 48 hours non-stop, and your basic payment can't even come, to the point that if you have a facility from the bank, you will always default because you are not even sure the next month's salary is coming. So it is not about how much was given to the Falcons or Sport or the team. It's the fact that the services government render, there is no ministry in this country today, there is no civil servant that can tell you that, okay, by 28th or by 1st or by 5th of every month that I'm going to get my salary. It's not certain. If it comes, fine, they say hey, they will pay. Sometimes the deductions too, a lot of Nigerian civil servants don't even know how much they are earning, because this month you could get 10,000, next month you have 8,000, and there is no explanation. So the sector is totally collapsing.
Now, when I listen to these conversations around the need for wage reviews, it's the role of the legislator that is always in question here. Now, as agreed with organized labor, it's supposed to be reviewed after every 3 years. You talked about a non-implementation of the newly agreed 70,000 naira across states in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And whilst we look at the different sectors and their overall importance to better quality of life, how do we get the government to prioritize the yearnings of health workers, as we can see a warning strike that has entered the third day? What are the hopes that it will not just be the heads of the unions that will be called in for an agreement and then would revisit this issue going into 2026?
Well, most public servants, or in fact most employees, their last resort is usually strike. It's legal by International Labour Organization. Strike is a standard practice to pressure the employer to conform or to improve services. But until we have a patriotic government that sees the welfare of the average Nigerian citizen as a priority, because they say that the priority of every government is to provide security for lives and property, and psychological security is there. It's not
kinetic approach.
So-called kinetic, carrying guns to follow people around. That is not security. You need the economic security. You need the securities that will make you sit down, go to your work, be excited of going to do your work the next day. If you are working in this TV station and you know that your salary is coming, you are working for it. You'll be excited to go. You enjoy your job. And you also know that after 2 years, I should have some promotion. After the third year, I should rise. So you have ambition in your work. But in Nigeria, there is no ambition for any average person. The only ambition is perhaps you get to management level where you can have more access. You can have actually access to play with the resources of the government. So I think the call should be that Nigerians must, we keep saying it, that until we demand for these services, it cannot come. Just for example, we started this conversation with the government trying to preach to northern Nigeria, we are doing this, we are doing, because certain demands are already coming, that what are you doing? If you are not going to do it, well, we are not going to support you in the next election. So Nigerians cannot also just sit back and expect this, elites that are removed from the realities of an average Nigerian to do anything. We have to demand for it. It could be through strike, it could be through protest, but we have to hold this government to account. And every other government, from the local government to the federal government, we have to hold them to account. Until we hold them to account, I don't see them driving any change, because there is no policy of this government or any other government in Nigeria today that can tell you that in another 12 months that your life can be better. So we have to demand for it.
Now, in the opinion of Mr. Moses Idika, it behoves on citizens to hold government to accounts in the pursuit of a better quality of life. Now, whilst the nurses have taken it into that direction with a 3-day warning strike that intends to be part of a 7 days warning strike nationwide, the federal government has also moved to dialogue again tomorrow with the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives to resume work to salvage patients who are stranded at the gates of hospitals, some needing to be discharged, others needed to have been blatantly turned out of receiving healthcare attention. Now, another of such demands is one that has happened in Benue State, in line with the recent visit of the First Lady, Senator Olukunle, to Benue to condole with the families of the Elwata attack and other persons within displaced persons camp. In her magnanimity, she gifted the IDPs 1 billion naira. However, reports making the rounds this morning is that the IDPs are still in hunger and have revolted over lack of transparency in the disbursement of these funds. I don't know, is it another bureaucratic bottleneck? I would have hoped to reach out to some of the commissioners in Benue, but it's also on the news that the Benue State governor has dissolved his cabinet, sacking all the commissioners and changing his chief of staff.
It's the tragedy of our times. It is only in Nigeria that public officials, the First Lady is donating 1 billion naira to IDPs. Where is that 1 billion coming from?
Is it personal funds?
Is it coming from the office of the First Lady? What budget does the office of the First Lady have?
But Mr. Moses, remember, she was quite viral for having said that her family is wealthy enough not to pilfer into Nigeria's pockets. That was during the campaign of her husband at the start. I don't know if it's relevant in this case.
Well, it's not necessarily relevant. We know that before Trump became the president of the United States of America, he is said to be a billionaire. But there were a lot of hurricane issues in various states in America. Trump will always visit and all those areas. I haven't heard that he went there and he donated billions, or Melania went there and donated billions. What they go there to do is to say that we are Americans and this thing, we are going to rebuild our communities. We are going to make sure they are providing, the National Guard is there, the security is there. We are going to ensure that the devastated areas are reclaimed and general rejuvenation of the environment. So if the wife of the president had gone to Benue and is going there and is going to say, you are going to be resettled, the government is working hard to make sure you are resettled.
Against gifting money.
Gifting money, you are going to be resettled, your loss, we know about it, schools are already being built, you can see that the burnt houses are already being rebuilt. But when you go there, you say you are donating 1 billion. So you donate 1 billion, it's like, are you paying for the lives lost? Are you paying for the
houses burned?
I mean, the loss. It's like you just dash them money when you can go.
Now Mr. Moses, hold your thoughts. Let's expand this conversation because it would make for good readings to have another opinion in this regard. We'll join our next guest virtually, Olukunle Durodolu, who joins us virtually from Ibadan to be a part of this conversation. Hello, Mr. Olukunle. Good morning to you. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. I can hear you.
Well, the last time we're in this conversation, the network wasn't too friendly. We're hoping that your network permits for us to have a smooth conversation today.
Yes, it is working. Everything is okay.
Good to hear. Mr. Moses in the studio, we're talking about the First Lady's magnanimity. He was of the opinion that other than give a cash donation, that he would have preferred the office of the First Lady and the government by extension to make for resettlement plans, rebuild some of the houses burnt, make plans to have those with skills within the IDPs find some gainful source of employment, something sustainable. And this opinion of his is coming in light with reports that the IDPs have revolted and are demanding for transparency in the disbursement of the 1 billion naira as donated by the First Lady. But what's your opinion in this regard?
Yes, I want to clarify some things that appear not to be correct in the assertion of uh, my other brother in the studio. First Lady office is not constitutional, so the money being donated is not from the federal government, but First Lady office can solicit for grants from people all around, and of course donations are made, free will donations are made to that office to encourage uh, humanitarian services that First Lady is offering. And she is not the first person to be doing that. Many people in that positions have done that before. So I don't see anything wrong in that. Even the America example you gave is not correct. Anytime there is hurricane, the Trump government always donate money to resettle those people. So I don't think those assertions are correct. And if he doubts, he can fact check me.
Mr. Olukunle, Mr. Olukunle, in the situation of Donald Trump,
Yeah.
he also has foundations that actively participates in some of these relief donations, much like the First Lady, who also has gone about a Renewed Hope project, which she says is Harcourt project. Now, it's on the part of accountability of this NGOs, would I call them, as owned by persons in government.
Yes, NGO.
As owned by persons in government. How do Nigerians, I'm not speaking for Mr. Moses, though I'll allow him to respond, how do Nigerians find this transparency and accountability in distinguishing between what is government influenced and what is privately proposed?
Yes, there is an institution that is instituted to monitor NGOs and their donations. And we have a law in Nigeria that grants government the right to audit them from time to time to make sure they are accountable to the people. And we have a law under the CAMA law, CANA law, that allow for this system to be audited to make sure that it is run transparently, that people's money is not being mismanaged. So I think, and if people find any way that is not transparent enough, they can, of course, make inquiries about them.
All right, let's allow for
Mr.
All right, Mr. Olukunle, let's allow for a right of response by Mr. Moses to your opinions of his earlier assertions. Mr. Moses, care to react?
Yes, he obviously got me wrong. I asked questions. I said the First Lady donated ₦1 billion to the IDPs in Benue State. And where is the money coming from? Of course, you made mention of the fact that he's from a very rich family. I know he was in the Senate. He was the First Lady of Lagos State, and I'm sure they have their businesses and all that. We understand that President Tinubu's family is a very humongously rich family. But that is begging the question. What we are talking about is the efficacy of such donations. We've heard all of this before. In 2012, there was this massive flood in Lokoja in Kogi State. People donated. We didn't see any improvement. In last year, there were a lot of donations to Maiduguri flood victims. Maiduguri, as we speak today, is still devastated. Now, in the case of Benue massacre, the water massacre, people have been driven away from their homes. Now, you are donating ₦1 billion. The schools, the health center, if there was any, and the farmlands have been devastated. Those people are in IDP. Are you saying that donating, calling amount of money, they didn't tell us how many people are in the IDPs, and the ₦1 billion, how is going to be distributed to them? We are talking about Nigerians that have been dislocated from their homes. What is the plan of the government to make these persons, to make these unfortunate Nigerians today go back to their normal lives.
Their livelihoods.
It's not about said I donated
The
1
gesture.
billion or 20
right.
billion.
I quite
The issue
understand your
is
question now.
how is this thing going to
be shared,
rebuild and get these people back on their feet? Because before now, they didn't need such handout from the government. They were hardworking Nigerians in their village farming and having going about their lives. So
all right,
the
let's
issue
bring
is these Nigerians, how do we reintegrate them
back
to
into
the society?
Mr. Olukunle, and I think you get Mr. Moses' position better now. He's talking about the efficiency in sharing. What's your comment in that regard?
The state governor has a responsibility to rise up to these occasions and make sure the money is transparently and judiciously used to solve the problems.
I agree with you, Mr. Olukunle, but as it were, news coming in from Benue this morning is that the governor has dissolved his cabinet, sacking all commissioners, and has changed his chief of staff. How do we adjudge this change in government midway as against these demands, with you saying that the onus lies on his table?
Yes, that should not create a vacuum. There should be other people in charge. We have civil servants who are still running all the agencies of government in Benue State. So I don't think that should be a big problem. When you remove some commissioners, another people should be fixed there, and the right thing should be done on time.
Well, because of time, we'll revisit this Benue situation when we have more facts and inputs from the state government. But in the meantime, let's move on to another issue that has created for much debate. It's the NNPCL. News before now was that there was a planned sales of the refinery, having invested over $18 billion in trying to turn around and maintain the nation's refinery. This morning, the incumbent GCO, Engineer Bayo Julari, has said that far from it being the truth, that there are no plans to sell the refinery. But as it stands, it's with the need to be cautious in restarting production in these refineries that is the subject of conversation. I'll start with you, Mr. Olukunle. What's your take on the state of our refineries and this back and forth on the desire to privatize it as being proposed by Petro1 and the position of the GCO, Engineer Bayo Julari?
I disagree with Engineer Bayo Julari for the refusal to dispose these assets. They are not making money into Nigerian coffers, and the way they are managing it is not transparent, and people don't have faith in these companies that we expended about $18 billion into their repairs, and we are not getting value for money. So the best thing is to sell them off and let the private hands manage them. I feel we will get more result than holding on to assets that are not viable in our own management.
Mr. Moses, Mr. Olukunle disagrees with Engineer Bayo Julari. Do you believe that privatizing it would go at a giveaway value to the private companies that will pick up these refineries after the humongous amounts invested in trying to revive them?
Well, I think last time we touched on this topic, and my opinion is that Nigerian government has failed woefully over the years to manage our public resources, to manage our public institutions even. NNPC, for over 30 years, all over the world, you can actually stay in a room and find out how many barrels of petroleum product you bring out from your soil. But it is only in Nigeria that we hear about, most of our output is about 2 million barrels, Nigeria has never, for 3 decades, told Nigeria that today we had 1,980 something million barrels. No, we didn't have such so far. Now, this turnaround maintenance, every government comes, they will say they are doing turnaround maintenance, and they bring in public resources, pour in there. A lot of people get richer, a lot of people buy private jets, buy houses in Spain and all over the world. And the refineries in Kaduna, in Warri, in Port Harcourt, they are all moribund. Like I said last time, the only reason is let them set them off. That the only benefit we may have from those refineries is the fact that some Nigerians are going to be employed. And when the refineries work under private hands, well, jobs are created, more money comes into the economy. But if Ojulari wants to, because the only thing he's going to do now is to also say that maybe the turnaround maintenance that was done, some sections were, so thereby they are going to pull resources again from the national coffers to apply into it to do, because this same government some few months back celebrated that after 20 years Port Harcourt refinery is now people are going to load the assembled trucks around the refinery, took pictures like the Nigeria air situation, and then nobody loaded. They didn't tell us that a tanker loaded from Port Harcourt refinery. So it is not viable. It is digging massive hole on our national purse. It should be sold off, because that is the only way Nigeria can benefit from any of those refineries. So I totally align myself with Mr. Olukunle.
Now, Engineer Bayo Julari seems to have quite a lot on his hands. The Senate had issued an invitation to him to come forward based on an audit discrepancy between 2013 to 2023. Now, whilst the sum of 210 trillion naira is the subject of this discrepancy, these invitations have, however, not been honored by Engineer Bayo Julari. Now, the Senate is now very stern in its stance, giving a 3 weeks ultimatum to the NNPCL to come forward and answer the questions. Mr. Olukunle, some of the debates are that these discrepancies were not originally under Engineer Bayo Julari's term as GCEO. Do you think that he deserves to be called for to answer the questions for the time before he came into your office?
The money missing is humongous, and since he's the man in charge now, all the bus stops on his table, he has to come and explain what happened. The people who mismanaged, where money got missing, where we could not account for money, he is the one in charge now, so we cannot just excuse him and overlook that humongous money. What is missing is huge, and it's not just what we can wave away. Over 200 trillion is a lot of money. We should call him to come and answer. But again, this is not the first time we've been hearing that we'll call the MD of NNPC and he will disregard. The Senate disregarded Senate invitations during our time. But I don't think that trend should continue. The senators should use the power, whatever is within their power, to make sure that the right thing is done. We elected them to oversee the executives, and we expect them to do that patriotically.
Now, I understand your point, but my concern now is we also saw some form of protest while Alhaji Mele Kyari was there. There were public protests. There was a call for probe. I doubt if he has any form of immunity. Why do you think that the anti-graft agencies have not sent invitations to Alhaji Mele Kyari now that he's out of office, before we even come to the Senate's issue with Engineer Bayo Julari?
Well, it's all because of our own seriousness. Otherwise, I don't see any reason why we should call for any public officers to come and explain how they manage what is committed into their hands, and they find such difficult. It's because of our seriousness. We have all the powers within our ambit to deal with such situation. But again, it's like the more you look, the less you see. These people, what is missing is huge, and it's like anytime the Senate wants something, they will raise an alarm, and the charade will go off, or the drama will go off for a while, and everything will just die down.
Well, quite interesting takes there. Let me come to you, Mr. Moses. I see you smiling. It's a big dilemma now. He wasn't the one at the time. There was someone there. But the constant is a missing 210 trillion naira as alleged in the audit reports?
Why I'm smiling is because it's a familiar turf for the National Assembly. Since 1999, the National Assembly, every section of the National Assembly, we always institute probes. And most times, if you recall the power probe by the Ndude Lumelu committee in the House of Rep, you recall the one for SEC, you recall all manner of probes of public institutions. It always ends up in bribery and counterclaims. Because like Mr. Olukunle said, each time either the House or each time the National Assembly, a committee wants something, they will raise alarm, and after they raise alarm, they have private meetings, and then you don't hear anything again. Now, if 200 trillion, I can't even on my feet convert it to dollar terms now, but 200 trillion is a kind of budget, is a kind of money that not even this government can even mention like that, because it's more than two-year budgets put together. Cannot be missing, because the NNPC has their joint venture agreement with all the major IOCs. The NNPC has everything the NNPC does is properly documented. We are told that every money earned through our crude oil transactions is documented. So, and we can also not say that Ojulari was not there, because what it means that Mele Kyari handed over his own report of how he has run NNPC in the last 6 years to him.
And if there were any discrepancies, he should have raised the alarm at that time?
Sir, every group, every section of NNPC, they all handed over, because the entire NNPC was overhauled. New appointment came, and when a new appointment comes, the other person hands over, and when you take over an institution, you take over the assets and the liabilities. And if he, by now, if he does not know the true picture of NNPC finances, he should be sacked. It means he's incompetent. It means he cannot handle the NNPC. If by now he doesn't have a clear picture of what is going on in NNPC. So for me, he doesn't have any excuse. But then the National Assembly has consistently failed Nigeria in this kind of show. It is just a show. It's like BB Nigeria. They just come, get views, and because we have, if you want to audit any institution, we have auditing firms that you can contract, and they will audit, and they will give you a robust picture of what to talk to, and they know it. The NNPC. Why do you think that the NNPC and other head of government agencies and parastatals don't take National Assembly serious? Because when push comes to shove, National Assembly, the committees can't even stand it, because the committees, they just take documents, explain this. I've been to a lot of all these investigative hearings. They don't speak to facts. They just speak to, by the time somebody in the ministry or in the agency stands up to say we have this, they get confused.
We've seen some feints too as well, but that will be a conversation for another day. I must thank you for your objectivity in this discourse. You've raised quite salient points to borrow from. Mr. Olukunle, I must also thank you as well for joining us, and I'm happy that your network allowed for you to also contribute actively today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
I wish you a pleasant day too. Thank you.